Piracy, or well, pirates, a subject that I've long waited to cover over here at Top 5 Scary Videos. Whilst both historical folklore and popular culture have often romanticised the notion of being a buccaneer, a privateer, or anywhere in between, the fact of the matter remains that the stark reality of the Golden Age of Piracy was fraught with some of the most heinous and violent criminal acts in history. Throughout the 15th century and onwards, the seven seas were an unchecked and unmarked frontier, ripe for the picking for some of the most daring and bloodthirsty pirates in history. So, in that case, I guess we better take a look. Hello horror fans, what's going on? And once again, welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. As per usual, I'll be your horror host, Jack Finch, as today we curiously take a look at the top 5 scariest pirates to have sailed the seven seas.
To fear death is a choice. And they can't hang us all.
For the curious amongst you, that clip was from the awesome TV series Black Sails, and if you like this particular list, then you'll definitely find something worthwhile in that show. Also, it depicts a particular notorious pirate meeting his demise at the gallows that may or may not be appearing on this list. I'll give you 10 points if you can guess who it is. Anyway, I guess we better get on with the show. Kicking off at number 5, Charles Vayne. Yeah, exactly. Did you get those 10 points? The man in chains that met his demise at Gallows Point in the legendary Jamaican town of Port Royal, way back in 1721. Charles Vayne in many ways was perhaps the archetypal pirate. He seized opportunity wherever it presented itself, and more so than many of the more respectful buccaneers, Charles Vayne was an incredibly violent and bloodthirsty individual. He was believed to have been born sometime in 1680 in the then Kingdom of England, before finding his way to the Bahamas as a young man, where his piratical career began. By 1717, Charles Vayne had become such a successful privateer that his machinations led him to being one of the most prolific leaders in the newly founded Republic of Pirates in Nassau, alongside the likes of Calico Jack Rackham, Stede Bonnet and Sam Bellamy. From here, Charles Vayne ravaged his way across the Bahamian waters in his fleet of pirate vessels, the Lark, the Ranger and the Catherine. He became feared by sailors alike for his cutthroat cruelty, often torturing sailors from the ships he captures just for the sake of it. Things didn't end too well for old Charlie though, because by February 1719, Vayne and his pirate fleet were caught in a storm off the Bay Islands, and his reckless decision making forced his crew to mutiny, where they marooned him on an uncharted island in classic pirate fashion. Here he was picked up by a passing British ship, recognised as the wanted criminal that he was, and finally met his end after being brought to Port Royal, where he was tried and hanged for piracy in March 1721. Coming in at number 4, Bartholomew Roberts. Barty Roberts, perhaps the most successful pirate in terms of amassed wealth in the whole of the Golden Age of Piracy. Born John Roberts on the 17th of May 1682 near Pembrokeshire in Wales, he would eventually go down in history under the nom de plume Black Bar, although that particular title was never used during his lifetime. It is often debated as to whether Roberts was born a peasant or into a family of wealth, but nevertheless he took to the seven seas at the ripe old age of just 13, where eventually he worked his way up to the rank of second mate on the slave ship Princess for the East India Company. And while this is where things got a little bit interesting for Barty Roberts, as the Princess was besieged by a fleet of pirates led by Captain Howell Davis and later captured. The pirates offered the crew two choices: die or become a pirate. Turns out Captain Davis and Roberts got on like a house on fire. They were both Welsh and conversed often in their native tongue, and although he was reluctant to become a pirate, he soon saw the advantages of the liberty and freedom that came with it. In fact, following Captain Davis's death at the hands of a Portuguese ambush, the crew later elected Roberts as their new captain, despite only being a pirate for a few weeks. Thus began one of the most successful careers in piracy ever seen, as his crew's loyalty and admiration for Roberts began to grow alongside his fearsome reputation and expert seamanship. In total, Bartholomew Roberts captured over 400 ships in his career and amassed nearly 500 vessels in his pirate fleet. His raids led him from Brazil and South America to the west coast of Canada and eventually Africa. Ultimately, Roberts was killed in battle near Cape Lopez, his death shocking the Royal Navy and the pirate world alike. But before his body could be captured, his crew fulfilled his final wish: burial at sea, wrapped in his ship's sail. His remains were never found. Next up at number 3, Edward Teach, aka the one and only, the notorious privateer Blackbeard. Now you might be thinking that number 3 is pretty low for a legendary pirate such as Blackbeard, but the fact of the matter is, Blackbeard was actually a pretty decent guy, and as far as gruesome torture and bloodthirsty violence goes, he was on the tamer side of piracy. Instead, Blackbeard relied on the illusion of fear and the theatrics of the dark arts to strike fear in the hearts of men, and boy, did he find success in that. Contrary to popular belief, Edward Teach spurned the use of any force, and was far removed from the modern day picture of the tyrannical pirate he's so often depicted as. He commanded all of his vessels with the consent of his crews, and there is no known historical account of him ever harming or murdering those that he held captive. Blackbeard was a shrewd and calculating leader, commanding his infamous 40-gun ship, Queen Anne's Revenge. He would often board a ship in an ominous cloud of smoke created by the slow matches that he would light in his beard and hat. It was also heavily rumoured that Blackbeard was involved in voodoo and the dark arts, but it's also highly likely that it was a rumour started by Blackbeard himself. You see, the terrifying legacy of Blackbeard is down to the mystery that he permeated. In all likelihood, we will never know his true name, as Edward Teach is often believed to be a pseudonym alongside the many other names that are associated with him. Nevertheless, that was the point of his notoriety, and seemingly he became one of the most iconic pirates in history while still being a pretty decent dude. Nice one, Blackbeard. Swinging in now at number 2, Ching. And where do we even begin? Because when it comes to pirates, Ching is without a doubt the most successful pirate in history, commanding the largest pirate crew ever assembled, the Red Flag Fleet, 300 ships consisting of anywhere between 20,000 and 40,000 pirates that ravaged and plundered the Seven Seas for over a decade. And still, she died in her own bed as a free woman at the age of 70 after retiring and running a successful casino in southern China. Born in 1775, she became a Cantonese prostitute working in a floating brothel in Guangzhou. In 1801, she married the notorious pirate Cheng Yi, and following his death, she utilized her shrewd opportunism to gain control of his fleet. From then on, Ching ruled the oceans with an iron fist, beheading anyone who stepped out of line and ruling over her Red Flag Fleet with a strict pirate's code that often resulted in cruel and violent punishments for any broken rule. The thing is though, despite her tyrannical punishments, it worked to a startling efficiency, allowing the widow of Cheng to ultimately rule over tens of thousands of pirates. Her ability to coordinate such a large pirate fleet pitted her against entire navies, and she often skirmished against the British, the Chinese and the Portuguese, plundering and reaving with ease by sheer numbers alone. In fact, she was such an iconic pirate that after her eventual capture, the Chinese government granted her a pardon, and in her later years she served as a military advisor when battling against the British Army in the First Opium War of 1839. Her success as a pirate is completely unrivaled, and her legacy alone remains an extraordinary feat of history. And finally, coming in at our number 1 spot, Ned Lowe. Because whilst Ching is without a doubt the most successful pirate in history, our number 1 spot is reserved for perhaps the most cruel. Edward Lowe, otherwise known as Ned, was actually only active as a pirate for 3 short years, but during that time he committed some of the most violent and heinous acts ever seen throughout the Golden Age of Piracy. Born into poverty in the year 1690 in Westminster, London, Ned became a thief and a pickpocket at an early age. After a taste for crime as a young man, he soon caught a ship bound for the New World, where he briefly settled in Boston, Massachusetts. After his wife died in childbirth, Ned decided to take out his rage as a pirate, and thus began one of the most bloodthirsty reigns in piracy. Ned Lowe preferred to maintain a small fleet of 3 or 4 ships, and during his brief 3-year endeavour, Lowe and his crew captured over 100 ships, burning the vast majority of them after torturing and murdering their crewmen. During one particular pillage, fearing capture, the enemy ship's captain threw his loot overboard, abandoning it at sea. After discovering what he'd done, Lowe sliced off the captain's lips with a dagger, then cooked them in a frying pan and forced the captain to eat them. He made a man eat his own lips. And then he massacred the entire crew and burned the ship to cinders. The thing is, little is written about Ned Lowe because he was such a force of cruelty and hatred. In the words of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, Ned Lowe was a savage and desperate man, a man of amazing and grotesque brutality. Unlike the romanticised notions of the likes of Blackbeard and Captain Roberts, Ned Lowe was a true psychopath who saw the opportunity of piracy to satiate not just his criminal endeavours, but the darkness of his own soul. The true meaning of a dread pirate. Skull and crossbones and all. Well, there we have it, horror fans, our list for the top 5 scariest pirates to have sailed the 7 seas. What do you guys think? Do you agree? Do you have any of your own choice picks, or do you just have something interesting that you'd like to add? Then why don't you go ahead and say it down in the comment section below. Before we depart from today's video though, let's first take a quick look at some of your more creative comments from over the past few days. Vincent Malab says, Jack Finch, and then an arrow pointing right, Jack the Ripper. Wait, Vincent, do you mean that I am Jack the Ripper, or is it intended to be I'm greater than Jack the Ripper, as in I'm better? As in, I'm far, far nicer than Jack the Ripper. I'm not sure how I feel about being associated with one of the most notorious serial killers in history. I'm so confused. Please, let me know, Vincent. Well, on that note, unfortunately, that's all we've got time for in today's video. Just stick around all the way until the end. If you were a fan of this video, please be a dear and hit that thumbs up button, as well as that subscribe bell. And I'll be seeing you in the next one. As per usual, I've been your horror host, Jack Finch. You've been watching top 5 scary videos. Until next time, you take it easy.